Yeah, guys, happy Saturday. So, I think this depression is lifting. I don't know what happened last night. It just today feels a lot better, so it's just like, I don't know, just everything seems a little better. Not too much, but I mean, it's getting there. So yes, yay for that. Alright. So, last one we went over Cone of Power and Libations, so now we're going to do Riding the Dragon, which I really thought was really, really interesting, really cool. So yeah, basically everything, I mean, you put your tradition from wherever you're at, regional witchcraft across Europe, into this, so I'm totally understanding this book now. A lot better. So, Riding the Dragon, so this is really interesting. Many traditional crafters have an interesting relationship with dragons. So see, and I didn't know this. I did kind of back from the Mystica when we were doing that. So some of them see them as archetypes, some see them as being similar to gods, and some see them as living mythical beasts. So in a very literal way. I don't know how I view them. I think it's just, yeah. I don't know. I think they're just archetypes, in my opinion. So it is certainly true that myths and legends involving dragons are central to many of the traditional cultures from which British witchcraft derives. So, in Sumerian and Babylonian mythology, we have Tiamat, the mother of dragons, and even in the ancient Egyptian mysteries, we find the dragon tucked away. So take a good look at the figure of Ptah, P-T-A-H. Even though it's not very dragon-like him, he's scaly, so we have that serpentine, dragon-ish-esque energy to him. Found in the tomb of, oh god, Tutankhamun, something like that. And you will see the markings of feathered wings wrapped around his mummified body. So Ptah, the greatest architect and one of the oldest gods in the Egyptian pantheon, is a dragon. No. Actually, no. He's not. So, that's wrong. It scales, but I mean, he's not a dragon. So for the people in this, this particular, Briar Rose, the dragon is a very personal thing, because they see drakes to a certain extent as all of the above. So just most importantly, we see the drake as part of our own makeup. Just as Orion, Orion Foxwood, teaches that we have three selves: the Dreamwalker, Surface Walker, and Star Walker. So that kind of sounds like David Bowie. A lot like David Bowie. Where'd I go? Oh, so in our kind of crafting, we work with three aspects of self: the drake, the initiate, and the crown. So in other traditions, these also appear, though they may have different names, such as the fetch beast. So yeah, that's more traditional Cornish. I like that. The magician and the star body, or shadow self, and star self. For us, the drake is the underworld component of our being. So the shadow form in which we gain our power. So awakening the dragon is an important part of our development and the key part of our rite of initiation. However, there is a caveat, because the drake needs to be reined in by the crown or the higher self. Otherwise, it's out of control. Kundalini. This is a lot like Kundalini. And will ride roughshod over the initiate self. So, it is much like the relationship between Set and Nephis in the Egyptian mysteries. Set is among other things the chaotic yet potent power of the desert storm, wild and destructive, but Nephis provides the control and contact for his chaos, giving form to his force so that the power is tamed and becomes her power to dissolution. So this side of nature that involves breaking down things to their basic building blocks through erosion, decay, and rotting, so that the components can be recycled and incorporated in new growth and new life. That kind of feels like what's going on right now, almost, in a way, in a sense. So I'm not sure. So the key when working with drakes is to find the balance point, much like finding the fulcrum point in the compass in order to work magic. Now, only the drake is the engine that powers the magic, and the compass is the tool we use, guided by our higher self or crown to direct it. Fly? So we use the term riding the dragon, both for the process of balancing this relationship and also for the exercise we use to learn and practice it. Okay, so that's not, I mean, that is completely different from Cornish craft, so I mean, I don't take that really into my practice, but I mean, it does have there's another practice to it in Cornish craft, so I don't really, I don't know, I just don't like that. I mean, I don't find it bad, but it's very interesting. So now we have actually awakening the altar, and I thought this was even more interesting, even giving more insight into the enfleshed skull or the buka vessel. So this is really neat too. Wow, clove oil is so too much. So traditionally crafters do not use altars in the same way that Wiccans or other religions do, and that's very true. So for many spiritual paths, an altar is a combination of shrine and focal point of our worship. But traditional crafters do not worship the gods. Very true. And if they use an altar table at all, it is more akin to the ceremonial magician's use of the altar as a workbench. So basically, yes, that is what my altar has turned into. So, but we do pray or pay our respects to our ancestors, and while the altar itself is just a table, it is the resting place for the tools we use to interact with our ancestors. The hearthstone, the skull, the wand, and the cup. And now it gets really interesting. So, when we talk about awakening or activating the altar, we are really talking about opening up the gateway for the ancestors. Now, this is one of the exercises that are very simple and will almost seem silly until the first time that you do it right. So, he says, we have a bunch of candles on the altar because we like to work in candlelight. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I like the detail. But there are a set of candles around the skull and stone that are specifically there for the awakening process. Now, this is what really fascinated me. We start by lighting the candles, a black one to the left of the skull, a white one to the right, a blue one behind the skull, and a red one upon its crown. So, red, green, and what was it? Red, green, and black is Cornish craft. So, now, the black and white candle represent the pillars that mark the gateway, and the arrows that are often attached to the staying, among other things. The blue and the red candles represent, in turn, Noctifer and Lucifer, the two aspects of Venus, the evening and morning star. In many ways, Noctifer and Lucifer are, to the tradition, what the dragon and the crown are to us as individuals. So Noctifer is the dark twin, potent, passionate, chaotic, and illogical, while Lucifer is the calm, intellectual, and controlled one. So, they are, of course, both separate and the same, and can be found in such cultural pairings such as Lug and Crom, Lu and Grunau, Osiris and Set. So, each of us has our own way of lighting the candles. Some use a few words, others do it in silence. The important thing is to acknowledge and feel the presence of the pillars and twins, and to be aware of their balance. So, it's really, really interesting stuff to actually think about and really just meditate on the twins. It's fascinating. So, where'd I go? But yeah, for lighting the candles and stuff, I just usually, I always light a candle. You guys can see my skull behind me. So it is going to get redone, revamped. So yeah, I always just say a few little words, and I talk to everything. Talk to all my tools. So it's very important to do that. Where'd I go? Okay, then we call in the ancestors by calling on our primary ancestors. So theirs is secret, theirs is separate. I don't know who theirs is. Mine would obviously be my grandma, my primary ancestor, or it would be, our first, which would be Cain, the bloodline of the witch, of witches. So old XXX, bring them in. Old XXX, bring them in. Old XXX, bring them in. One by one and all together, ancestors long gone and those yet to be. Bring them into the dance of life and death with me. That's beautiful. That is seriously beautiful. So this is, I love this. So I'm gonna do the buka vessel first. I'm not going to use any other rite for that, because that is just personally what my heart tells me to use, is the traditional Cornish craft way. Alright, so obviously the name of our primary ancestor is particular to us, to them, so yes, and private, so the altar, or the author, has replaced it with the X's above. So 3 times the wand is then banged on the altar. Then the crafter places his hands either side of the skull, using bellowing bellows breathing. It's where the sacred space acts like a bellows, and it feels like the air is being pushed and pulled from the crafter's lungs rather than its simple inhale and exhale. So I've felt that, and it's pretty amazing. So the Y starts to build up energy in the breath, with every inhale going right down to the boots, getting bigger with each breath. So until by the 3rd inhale, the crafter draws breath in until their whole body is filled with energized air, to the point where they can't hold it anymore. So then the crafter exhales the charged air, the life force, into the mouth of the skull. So as if giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, breathing life into the skull. So it's difficult to describe the process, but you will know when you get it right, because the skull will suddenly feel enfleshed. And literally that is going back into the skin turners, and that what we talked about in previous videos. So it'll feel enfleshed in your hands, and it will breathe back. Now, if that thing breathes back, I am going to flip. I'm going to be like, alright, we got to talk. What can we do? How can we work things out? And what can we accomplish? No, I'm joking. So, it's difficult to describe the process in words, obviously, but you will know when you get it right, because the skull will suddenly feel enfleshed in your hands, and will breathe back. I already did that. I already said that. Read that. The ancestors are then welcomed, and a bell is rung to signal that we have moved between the worlds and are now in the presence of the ancestors. Really interesting stuff. I mean, really, really interesting stuff. It's just becoming, this string is awfully long for this journal. Holy wow. It could be a weapon. Take this thing. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and I had to share that with you guys. Yeah, it's been too long, so. But alright guys, I hope you guys have a great Sunday, or Saturday. Whatever is happening today, I guess. What's supposed to happen? Some Saturn and Venus are conjoining, or they're next to each other, or they're doing something. I don't know. Something about it's supposed to be Venus. Venus's love is supposed to shine down us, which would be Noctifer and Lucifer. So Lucifer would be right now, and then Noctifer tonight. So does anybody know what's actually going on? Because nobody seems to actually know. I've asked quite a few people, and they're like, what? So it's really, really weird, but alright guys. I love you all, and I hope you guys have a great Saturn day. And yeah, just enjoy your day, and be safe. So I love you guys. With all my heart. All the way from Venus. All the way back down. And I will see you guys tomorrow. So, alright, thank you guys so much for all your just support for, just me, the depression, that crap. It's coming. It's lifting. So, thank you guys. I love you all. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.